Okay, so the next question is from Antonia. How do I figure out the right language for my ideal client when how I am talking to them right now isn't resonating and I have an insufficient sample size of people I can take the language from?
Well, this is Lydia, you say?
Antonia.
Antonia, I'm sorry. Antonia, can you give us a bit more context on this?
Yeah, I'm the one you talked to me about 6 weeks ago in a puttering session. And after that, by the way, I can recommend that to anyone. That was really good. But after that, I was like charging in thinking, okay, I'm all prepared. Ted said, this is good. And during the puttering session, we talked a lot about me doing hub marketing and preparing my my workshop. And I realized as I was testing it on what I thought was my ideal audience, that it didn't resonate. And it wasn't because of what I was saying, it was how I was saying it. And what I do is I teach people to write better content. I teach them storytelling and how to explain their complicated ideas. And yeah, so the language I'm using isn't clicking.
Okay. Do you think it's that you don't know who you're trying to reach right now, or is it that you know who you're trying to reach and that you're not articulating it in a way that's grabbing them?
I think what I'm struggling with is I tend to call this the tip of the iceberg problem. So I think there's an audience for what I want to do, and I'm, drawing from my values and why I want to do this work. I think there's a lot of people who would resonate with why I do it and how I do it. The problem is that the people I'm currently doing it with aren't exactly my perfect client. They're kind of, I have them because they got recommended, or they just randomly found me, or they're in the space where they're really desperate and really, really need help. And it's usually not the type of person that gets the most value from what I do. And so I'm like, okay, if I talk to them, I don't get what I want, but I also really don't know. Maybe to give you an example, because I've been moving around in this space of solopreneurs and content and marketing, and it's hard and I'm struggling and I don't know, I realize when I'm writing content, I end up using language like, find your passion, use your passion, even like build your legacy brand, da-di-da, all this. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. You've probably read this before. And I realize it's not really, first of all, it's not aligned with what I believe in, and it also doesn't click with my people. But I really, really struggle to say what I want to say in different words. Does that make sense? Like, I'm so caught up in this content marketing coaching language that I have a hard time expressing myself differently. It's like I have no words for what I want to say.
Is it you have no words, or you have the words and you're nervous to share them, or you're just, I got nothing?
Maybe, yeah. I feel, so how do I explain this? So the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because, I came from doing it for corporations and companies, and it really didn't feel good. And so I'm trying to doing it for individuals, because every time I do, it feels good for myself and for the people I'm doing it with. So I know this is the right thing to do. But then I end up finding myself talking a lot about social media and how social media is bad and toxic and difficult and how people are struggling to do social media, but I'm not a social media person. Or I find myself talking a lot about, AI and noise and it all being hard, and that just doesn't resonate, because usually people are just like, I hate doing content. I don't know how to do content. But then
So what do you want to talk about?
What I really would like to talk about is how they can build a brand, but the word brand doesn't resonate. That most people don't really understand what a brand is.
Why do you want to talk about building a brand? What do you think the benefit is for them around building a brand?
I think if you build something sustainable, like I already typed this in the chat, I think it's like building a tree. It's like planting a tree. If you build something and you grow it over time, using your idea, using your unique perspective, and you do it with high quality content, you'll eventually have something that sustains itself, that has a big enough audience that loves what you do, that people start talking about you, and you have a much easier time generating business, and all this hustle that Jen was talking about earlier, it kind of goes away. I know this from my own experience. I've done this before with different projects, not with a business, but with nonprofits. So I know it works. If you create high quality content that's really aligned and in tune with what you do, you'll eventually have to hustle less.
Yeah,
And you'll
true.
have something that makes money. Like also you'll be able to write books and ebooks and courses from this very unique thing that you have. And I wish I could make people understand this without using all of these words.
Well, first thing I would say is it sounds like your ideal clients are people who are committed to being in business for the long term.
Yeah.
These are people who don't just see themselves in business, tomorrow and next week, but like a decade or 2 decades from now. So there are people probably who found their thing. They're really clear, this is the work that I want to be doing. So then to me, that's got to be the case that's made, is just if you want to be in business long term and you're tired of the hustle, here's a different approach. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And so if the word branding, I wouldn't say branding, right? It doesn't make sense. But you could experiment with ways of saying, like the long-term no hustle approach to growing your business. But the filtering is just, you have to be in this for the long term. If you're only thinking about sticking around for a couple of years, this isn't going to help you. And then the question becomes, where do you find those people? Where do you find people who are really in it for the long term?
Yeah, I guess that's a different problem.
Yeah. Those are my thoughts.
Someone is saying body of work in the chat. I've been using that expression a lot. And I've gotten very mixed results from it. So it's nice that you guys are using it, because I kind of feel like it's a word I would like to use, but I struggle to use it because I feel like sometimes it just doesn't click.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your question.
Thank you, Ted.